Hello and welcome back to another mock draft Monday. For this Monday, we are doing all 32 NFL teams, and we're going to go through who I think each team is going to end up with. Now, this is going to be needs based. This is also going to be where I've seen them mocked by other people, and I think there is a certain dynamic and certain fluidity to drafting that comes with trying to get teams on board. Now, with the first pick in the first round, I think the obvious has been Fernando Mendoza. I think with the franchise, you have to build and you have to be important in how you develop an identity. I don't think there's enough players that build an identity in this draft for you to say you can have a franchise cornerstone player and not have it be your quarterback. I think Fernando Mendoza is an NFL ready quarterback. He's gotten like the Kirk Cousins buzz. He's very pro ready. He's made big plays in timely moments. He ran through the playoff field and didn't do all that much, but he did what he had to do. Next up, now Rueben Bain is somebody that I think deserves to go in the top three. He is an absolute player. He's a stud. He has short arms, but when you look at him play, he is dominant. Now, if you move inside, could he have an Aaron Donald type dominance? Maybe that's the type of player I think he'll be. I think the Jets are in a 4-3, which means you go get a 4-3 guy. You go get Rueben Bain, who had production, and he has just overall guy attitude. This is a person that you can put on your D-line and you can build with. And I think you go get T'Vondre Sweat, and you're like, hey, let's rebuild this D-line. I think this is a great spot there. Next up at pick 3. Now, pick 3, there's a couple directions the Cardinals could go. I think you go highest upside as a pass rusher, which in this case I think is David Bailey. David Bailey had incredible production and is mocked as a top 5 type guy. Arvell Reese is maybe a player you think might go here, but then you actually have to realize that, NFL teams value absolute production and certainty. Arvell Reese is, at this point, kind of just, he's an idea. So Arvell Reese won't go there. At pick 4, though, with the Titans, I'm going Arvell Reese. There has been some Daniel Jeremiah buzz saying that Jeremiah Love is no longer going to go to the Titans or the Giants. And I think if that's the case, I think they absolutely go best player available, which at this point is Arvell Reese. He can play on the line. He can play on the linebacker as a linebacker off ball. But if you draft him this high, you want him to play edge. The problem, though, is how good of an edge is he going to be? That is not something that you know for sure, which I think will be a limiting factor. Next up, at 5. Now, I've seen a lot of Sonny Styles. I've seen some Caleb Downs. Carnell Tate. I think he is a no-brainer wide receiver 1 of this class. For the guys that were close by, there's the Jordan Tysons of the world, the Mekhi Lemon, Casey Concepcion. I think before injury, Chris Bell is in this conversation. But I'm thinking, who is it that can be a difference maker? Malik Nabers is out for now. But can I develop and have a wide receiver 2? You see some of the best offenses in the league have a dynamic 1 and 2, whether it's the Cowboys, the Rams, the Eagles. If you go get a guy and pair them with another guy, you make stuff happen. The Bengals, sorry not to forget that great duo there. Next up, and I think Carnell Tate also gives Jackson Dart more help, which he needs. Who's he throwing to? He's throwing to Theo Johnson, and the rest are nobodies. Clearly a big need for the team. And I think Carnell Tate can really elevate and be that wide receiver 1A or 1B, depending, but he's a great fit. Next up, I think the Browns, if they do not trade, now this mock we're doing no trades, just going straight up. If the Browns do not trade, you get best player available. But I think the best player available is somebody that can be multiple. This time on the offensive end, we're going to go with Francis Mauigoa. Francis Mauigoa could be a guard, could be a tackle, but he's going to be a stud. The Browns need to revamp that offensive line and keep building it for whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel. But either way, you want to rebuild this O-line, give them more time. You have invested in your run game with Judkins, and you see what he can do. You have weapons in Harold Fannin, so you might not need exterior guys this early. I think later on, if you have the pick and you have the option, you go get a guy. But for now, I think Francis Manoa, great pick. He can play tackle. If he doesn't translate well, he's going to be a phenomenal guard, but he looks like a stud. He gives off Penei Sewell vibes, and I think in the best way, he has the aggression that you need for being an NFL caliber lineman. Next up, we have the Commanders. Now, with the Commanders, I've seen a lot of talk about weapons, and I think we saw last year with the emergence of Bill and some of the things they try to do there. The Commanders don't have receivers. Their best receiver right now is probably Luke McCaffrey and an old Devo Samuels. So with that in mind, we're taking Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson has injury concern, but he is an absolute stud. They've been in talks to maybe go after one ASU receiver in Brandon Ayuk. Why not go get Jordan Tyson? At best, he is a X receiver that can go up and make plays and get it. But then at worst, he can be a wide receiver 2 and play along Terry McLaurin, make him have more favorable matchups. And then if you are able to get somebody like Brandon Ayuk and like a sort of trade, you can keep building that offense for Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is coming off a bunch of injuries. How does he respond? Well, you need weapons in order to really help him out there. Next up, we have Mansour Delane going to the Saints at 8. I think the Saints got rid of their nickel with Alontae Taylor. But you need a guy who can play on the outside. You need a guy that can be that number one and shut it down, kind of like Marshawn Lattimore that you had for many years. Who's that guy now? I think Jermod McCoy is cornerback 1, but at this point, you're looking around and you're saying, well, how healthy is he? He's a couple months removed, but 14 months removed, but normally it takes about a year and a half before you really see production. And the Saints are actually building something in a rather weak division. This could be the chance to build up that secondary and keep pushing forward. Next up, the Chiefs. Now, I view the Chiefs as a team that could take it down here. I don't think the Chiefs view that for themselves, but I think the idea when you go get Kenneth Walker is you want to be good enough for when Mahomes gets back. So how do you fix that? They've had some problems on the defensive end with Nick Bolton, with some of the contracts they've given on the D-line. So I think, how do you rebuild that? Well, you start by getting good players. Sonny Styles is a linebacker who could play off ball, but I think he could also translate well in a position where he's on the ball some. Nick Mullins has some struggles. You're not really getting much out of your D-line, so maybe he can just be more of a free blitzer, free player. Next up for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals, I think, can go in two directions. Whether it's D-tackle with Peter Woods, or if they want to go secondary. Their secondary has been terrible. Their linebacker play has been bad. But I think the biggest difference maker right now, Caleb Downs. The Bengals taking Caleb Downs would enable them to kind of get that Jesse Bates like free-ranging safety that you kind of want. Caleb Downs can play high. He can also play in the box. He would not be going top 10 if he was just a regular safety. And we've seen whenever he was at Alabama, he was one of the best players there. And then he goes and he's the best player at Ohio State. So you really think whenever you look at the Ohio State defense, like Caleb Downs is a guy. We see Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles going earlier, probably more so out of positional need. But I think Caleb Downs is an absolute gamer and can have some real good impact. Now, next up here, we are taking at 11, Mekhi Lemon. The Dolphins shipped off Jalen Waddle, which tells me they don't necessarily have a plan on offense. So what do you do when you don't have a plan? You draft good players. And Lemon is a guy who can translate well to the NFL. He can play in a tight slot. He can maybe go outside a little bit. But you look at what you can get out of his type of player. He kind of plays like a small version of Puka. His biggest knock is size, but he gets open. He can run after the catch. And I think Mekhi Lemon is a great piece. If you want to try and win a couple games, see what you have in Malik Willis, see what you have in Quinn Ewers. But the Dolphins go and get Lemon at 11. Next up at 12. So for the Cowboys, I think there's two ways to go about this. Depending on how good Jermod McCoy does at his pro day as he revamps and shows off to the league that he's all good, you have to understand the Cowboys are shifting to a more best player available type mindset. Are there players here I think would be great? Dylan Thieneman, yes, absolutely, love his game. Peter Woods, maybe. Keldrick Falk, I've seen. I wouldn't be the biggest fan. Avion Terrell. Omar Cooper Jr., if you're going to plan for a world where you don't have George Pickens. But I think they go Jeremiah Love. Brian Schottenheimer has talked about how if the best player is there and we can go get an offensive player, you go do it. If you look at wide receiver duos, the same thing can be said about running back duos. Why did the Lions draft Jahmyr Gibbs? Well, Jahmyr Gibbs was phenomenal, and people thought he got picked too early, but you see his impact. You see Bijan's impact in Atlanta. When you draft good players, good things happen. You give Javonte, who came off a 1,000-yard running back season, led the NFL in some productive stats, who had great experience, but you want somebody that can come in and just change the game. Whether it's 10, 12 snaps, you can open that up. I don't know if they believe in Jaden Blue to the full extent. I don't know if Phil Maffa will be anything more than a practice squad guy. I think Israel Adesanya or Abandakandi is going to be a practice squad guy too. So you go get actual talent that you know and have seen to be a difference maker. Next up, I think the Rams, I've seen a lot of tackle stuff. And I understand with Haverstein being on his way out. But I think the Rams want to build an identity that allows Matt Stafford to maximize his window. On the outside, you have Puka Nacua and you have Devontae Adams. Then who are you throwing to? They use the tight end a lot. They use the short flat. And I think somebody that could be great in that role is Kenyon Sadiq. Now, Kenyon Sadiq is a big body. He's a big body, and not only is he a big body, but he is somebody that can go in and he can play kind of like a receiver. He's just big. And you need that kind of size because it allows Puka to keep moving around. It allows Devontae Adams to be the red zone threat. But he can also be a chain mover. He has work to do in the blocking game, but I think the Rams could use someone of his caliber of talent. Next up at 14, with Baltimore, they go out and get Trey Hendrickson after the debacle with Crosby. But I think, who do you want if you're Bengals? If you're Bengals, I'm sorry, I keep saying Bengals. If you're a Baltimore fan, you want somebody that can help stop the run. This is likely seen as maybe a questioning move, but when you look at last year and the year before, one of the top names in defense, Peter Woods. Peter Woods is a guy that fell apart due to the Clemson fall apart, and only Avion Terrell really looked good despite all that. But I think Peter Woods is somebody that can just go in and be a difference maker and can help with that interior rush for Baltimore. You want somebody that can play the run, he can do that, and you hope that the 24 tape is more of him, not the 25 tape. For Buccaneers, they need big help in the pass rush, but they just had one of their all-time legends bow out and retire. So what do you do at the linebacker spot? I think so much has shifted to where you might not necessarily want this, but do you upgrade edge now, or do you go get a guy who can be the new green dot, who can replace Levante? I think that's exactly what they do. Now, he's the best inside linebacker probably in this draft. You go get CJ Allen, somebody that can kind of help out in terms of revamping this Buccaneers defense, which is pretty putrid, not very good last year. Now, the Jets earlier take Ruben Bain, and they want production off the edge. They want to rebuild this defense. So what do you do now with that second pick to help bolster it? Now, I think CJ Allen would be somebody that go for. I don't think there's any other linebacker that you really look at and you're like, this is a guy that I want to go high on. So I think they actually do something a little bit surprising, and I think they pair Ruben Bain with a Keldrick Falk. Now, Keldrick Falk has the athletic traits. He is somebody that I'm not entirely super high on, but I think in terms of can he play, he can play. He can stop the run now, which you need run defenders. He kind of gives me DeMarcus Lawrence vibes. So he can play the run. He has some pass rush. I think it's a little discredit to him to not acknowledge that, but I think he definitely could play. At 17, we're going with a tackle, Monroe Freeling. Decker is on the outs. You need a tackle coming up. You have Penei Sewell on one side, you need somebody on the other side. Marlon Freeling is an absolute combine stud. He can move well. He can get in space. That's what the Lions like to do on both sides. And I think he really opens up what Detroit can do in the run game. They go and get Pacheco, who I'm not high on, but you have Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously, who's one of the best backs in the league, if not the best. Next up at 18, this is like the perfect mock for him. Even though it seems cliche, you go from white safety to white safety, but Harrison Smith is going to be gone. You need somebody to replace him. Why not go get the best high safety in this draft, Dylan Thieneman? And I think he's an absolute steal at 18. Just positional value taking him out. But in terms of production, he's a playmaker at Purdue, and then at Oregon, he was just a guy, and you want a guy back there. Next up at 19, I think originally I had a Peter Woods-like player going to the Panthers, but I think just based on how far he's fallen, Caleb Lomu is a great tackle that has fallen so far. He might project better at guard. You have a 1-year deal on the outside that might be good for current, but you kind of want that insurance, and you also want to develop and give. If you're gonna make Bryce Young be your franchise guy, you need to protect him. So to do that, you go get another tackle guard, build that line. When you look at the best Cowboys teams, they built the line, and that I think that's an important thing to do. Next up at 20. I think the Cowboys have an absolute slam dunk pick here. I'm going Jermod McCoy. Now, Jermod McCoy is someone I would have considered at 12. I think he is by far the best cornerback in this draft based on the 2024 tape. Would have been a top 5 pick had it not been for the ACL tear. He's a year removed now, 14 months. He's looked good. He doesn't seem to be favoring that side. Depending on how his pro day goes, I think he's a real lock for 20 if he makes it that far. Next up for the Steelers, at 21, it says the team needs our quarterback, but I think Will Howard can be a guy that can be developed. But I think you're going to a Mike McCarthy offense. He is a West Coast type of guy. But what do you need? Well, you need a lot, but you need to rebuild that line. I think you go with the best guard in the draft with Vega. And I think you push forward. That's a great pick. You get him ahead of the Chargers, who likely would have gone with a guard, and you kind of help build that defense that you really want. Now, or build that offense that you really want. Next up for the Chargers, I think there's multiple options they can go. They can go D-tackle. They just lost their nose and get Kaden McDonald, who's a great run blocker, or run stopper. But I think they go a different route, and I think they go with somebody that probably projects better as a guard than anything and get Spencer Fano, who's kind of fallen to 22. Now, this is a guy who can go and make a difference and help on the interior and, as needed, go to the exterior. Obviously, you have Joe Alt, and he's a phenomenal left tackle. But they've had injuries on both sides of the line, and you just want to, with Rashawn Slater as well, you just want to give that assurance on the line. Now here at 23, I think Akeem Mesidor has fallen pretty far. I think another position I need is tackle with Lane Johnson on the exit. You lost Jalen Phillips, but I think the best need is tackle. You have to start preparing for a world where you don't have Lane Johnson. He's missed more and more time. The entire O-line is pretty banged up. So how do you revamp that? You draft young. You go and get another Alabama guy who can help, and he's physical in the run. You want to rely on Saquon. Go prove it. Next up for the Browns. Now, the Browns picked Francis at 6. I think they need to upgrade the receiver room in a big way, and I think the best way to do that is to go get a playmaker. They had Amari Cooper. How about you go get his brother, Omar Cooper Jr.? His brother. You go get a guy, another Cooper Jr. You go get somebody that at times wasn't the best receiver on the field, but was always the most dependable. We saw Charlie Becker go and have a great season. We saw Elijah Surratt, but whenever things got close and you needed someone to make a play, Omar Cooper was the guy. I think you get a receiver who can play on the inside and the outside. He can go be a dominant force, and the Browns need a receiver bad. Next up here for the Bears. I've seen the Bears. I think they want they're replacing Brisker. They're losing Edmonds. I think they're gonna try and fix that back end first. That's kind of the Bears way. So I think somebody they might go is EMW. I've seen a lot of fans want EMW, and I think it makes a ton of sense for what they're trying to do on defense. He's physical. He's a playmaker. He makes plays. His only knock would be, is he size-wise, can he play full-time in that star-type role in the nickel? We shall see, but I think EMW is a great home run pick. At 26, you need a receiver. Keon Coleman is not cutting it out. DJ Moore looked bad whenever he played last year for the Bears, and I think a lot of people are missing that just because you see the name and you think maybe. But I think you go get a guy. If you already have a go get it guy with Keon Coleman, you'll get the shifty guy. Casey Concepcion, if the knee scope is fine, you'll go get an absolute stud. Next up, I think when you talk about living a life without your tackle, Trent Williams looks like he's on the outs. You go get the best tackle available, which is Blake Miller. And you keep trying to build reassurance to help keep Christian McCaffrey safe and protected. You have a franchise guy in Brock Purdy, and you want to keep him protected. So what do? You upgrade your tackle spot. Now, looking at the Texans, their defense is phenomenal. I think you want to keep upgrading your line if you can. So I think they go max here. Best available tackle can move inside for guard. Most of the top tackles in this draft look like they can play guard, which is why I think they're flexible enough to go, and I think he's the best available. There's kind of been a run on tackles, which could happen. Now, at 9, the Chiefs went Sonny Styles. At 29, I think they have to improve the secondary, and you go get the best secondary guy available, which is Avion Terrell. Avion Terrell can play in any system. He can move. He can make plays on the ball, and I think you can kind of replace the Trent McDuffie era by finding talented young corners in the draft. Avion Terrell at 29. At 30, the Dolphins with their first pick went Mekhi Lemon. So I think the Dolphins go on the opposite side. They need cornerback as they've lost some of their depth there, and I think they go Colton Hood. Colton Hood could be a top 20 pick. I've seen mock where he goes to the Cowboys, but I think Colton Hood will won't make it out of the first round, and I think you upgrade that secondary because it's trash. The entire Dolphins franchise needs an overhaul. You use that draft capital to draft day one starters that can make a difference. Now, for the Patriots, I think the Patriots need receiver. I think they need pass rush. And so somebody that makes a ton of sense in terms of get Drake Mason help would be Denzel Boston, but I also think they're in massive need of some extra edge pressure. So I'm gonna go with Akeem Mesidor. I don't think Mesidor makes it this far down the draft, but if it falls like this for the Patriots, somebody has to fall. So with that, I have them taking Akeem Mesidor. And then at 32, the defending champs want to get better. They have a good interior line, but what position do you upgrade at? And I think that position is going to be edge. So for the edges, they play kind of light. You have DeMarcus Lawrence on one side. You like him a lot. But I think somebody who has great production and will do well in the league. It says he is Pro Football Sports 61st player. I just don't believe that based on his production. He is a little on the smaller side, but you need somebody opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm taking Cassius Howell at 32. And with that being said, this is the end of the draft. We have Mendoza, Bain, Bailey, Reese, Tate, Maui Tyson, Delane, Styles, Downs, Lemon, Love, Sadiq, Woods, Allen, Falk, Freeling, Thieneman, Lomu, McCoy, Yoni, Fano, Proctor, Cooper Jr., EMW, Concepcion, Miller, Max, Terrell, Hood, Mesidor, and Howell. Let me know below who you want your team to draft and what your thoughts are. But this is what I have for the first round. Anything can change. Trades can be made. I think a potential trade on the Cowboys end is a third rounder for Jordan Brooks, which would change your defense entirely. Maybe they change that up. And then if anyone makes any running back moves, then maybe Jeremiah Love goes a little bit later or earlier, depending. Anyway, that's it for me. If you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe down below. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day.